each episode takes 7 months to produce.
Yeah, the listeners don't know this, but we have a very arduous honing editorial process that we go through for every episode.
For every episode you hear, there are 50 episodes you don't hear.
Here at 30-Minute Worlds, we have the finest aged episodes in our larders just waiting for you.
Each episode has to be unanimously edited by all of us, so we compare the edits, and if they don't overlap perfectly, we scrap it. And
this is a great process.
The parts that don't overlap just get turned into silence.
Yeah, it's the best way to do a podcast.
It's why we released that one episode that is just like 30 minutes of nothing.
Right, the Sound of Silence episode?
Yeah, Flow Wars, yeah.
The one.
Yeah.
Rip that fucking episode,
we
man.
just couldn't decide. We couldn't agree. It was in a quorum.
Well, you know one thing I can agree on, boys?
Yeah. And
what is
Melvin's audio was fucked on that one.
Yeah, that your audio is fucking terrible.
My audio was bad on that episode.
Fucking destroyed.
It was really bad.
The other thing I can agree on, I love this podcast. I love making the worlds with you boys.
Not enough to show up for it on time.
Is that why you always show up 30 minutes late?
That's right. I'm so excited to hop on the pod. I show up late.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not a crippling ketamine addiction. It's
what
love.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna freeze from justifiably calling out Belvin. Daniel, what is it with you and ketamine? You're the only one who
I'd really like to have some ketamine, Walter. Could I please get some ketamine?
Joke?
I don't know. Ketamine's a pretty funny sounding drug. It's not as severe sounding as most of them.
And welcome to 30-Minute Worlds. This is a podcast about creating worlds in 30 minutes or less or more. We, for you listeners, create a fantasy or sci-fi or whatever you want, probably about frogs, that you can use or probably not use in your games. Honestly, this is a completely useless podcast.
Well, no, if you enjoy the creation of settings, if you can nerd out over a fictional world, then you are listening to the perfect podcast.
Yeah,
I don't think a single podcast has ever actually been useful in any way.
There are podcasts that teach you about like first aid techniques.
Yeah,
and does anyone listen to those?
To space, actually.
Oh yeah.
The ladies from Hidden Figures, they actually had a podcast that taught NASA how to build the space shuttle, and then white people stole it.
I like that one that had all those.
They had to rebrand it as Cumtown.
I may have fallen asleep while watching the movie.
This is a Zen koan of a podcast. Like you get out whatever you put into it.
Koans are notoriously make no sense, and in their confusion you transcend. So yes, this is
in that sense, yeah, good take, Chessman.
Yeah, I'm Zach Chessman.
I'm Walter Kunkel.
I'm Daniel Kennedy.
And I'm Belial.
And your little boy. No, okay. Let me take another. Another pass of that one.
Interesting.
Your large man. No, that doesn't sound right either.
I'm the large man of the podcast, first of all. There's no disputing that.
All right, tall doesn't mean large. Well,
I'm also large. How much do you weigh, dog?
You have the spelt figure of a Russian figure skater.
I weigh 200 pounds.
Factually incorrect.
That's true.
It's not true.
And it is true, dog.
Post it on your Twitter.
Well, let's make a world, boys.
Yes, big or small, wide or narrow. I am the lore lad this week, which means that you
Wide
three
is the answer. Yeah,
need to. That's rude. It's very rude. So rude. Just give me your damn prompts.
My prompt is ear.
Ear.
Yeah, it's the one thing I can't see on my table, which is why I had to pick it.
You can't see the back of your head either. Sorry, did I steal your prompt for next episode?
Yeah.
My word is yawn.
We got some bodily functions in the crew tonight. Okay.
It's the one thing you can't see on your desk.
My word is owl.
Owl.
Oh.
Ear, yawn, owl.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that teach you how to do first aid on birds, and they had an owl episode.
This might be one of our least forgiving sets of prompt words that I've seen. This might be the fucking baton death march of prompt words. I don't know what like the hypothetical worst set that we've ever dealt out is, but this seems pretty hard.
No, I'm feeling this. So
I'm gonna ignore Yawn for now because it's just I don't really want to be talking about it. It's
distracting.
Right at the moment. I'm just gonna start yawning the more we talk about it. I'm like already getting it. So owl and ear. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like partial shapeshifters, right? Like people who can turn part of their body into like an animal.
Whoa, here's the concept. It's kind of dark, but what if there was like a magical attack, like a chemical weapon attack?
Okay.
But instead of people having scars from chemical weapons, they have been transmogrified.
So yeah.
All right.
So the scars are like involuntary shape shifting.
Yes. Like the half of someone's face is an owl because they were hit by this magical attack. And
it went off one time or a lot of times?
Maybe multiple. Like maybe there was like a war.
Okay.
And there was like carpet bombed with the stuff.
So kind of like a
transfiguration bombs makes sense.
Yeah.
A magical Agent Orange. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a fallout from like a nuclear war. There's like regions that are still affected by it, kind of. Like if you go in, you could come out with like more, I guess, deformities, more transfigurations, transformations.
Like, there are people in society who have just like the remnants, the scars, and then there are like whole swaths of the land that are now like magic no man's land.
Yeah.
Right.
Induce basically like magical mutation or evolution if you spend too much time in there.
Yeah, because you would think you might assume that if this partially turns you into an animal, that if you were to stay long enough in it, you would totally turn into an animal. But more often the case is that you turn into multiple different animals at once. And then like if you were,
without the functionalities of any of them, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just like a guy with kind of a bear looking face, but you still have the physique of a human. You know, you're just like a shitty mutant.
Yeah, well, what if there's just like conservation of mass? Maybe that could be one of the rules of transmogrification.
Yeah, like if you're an owl, you have the human weight.
Yeah, so like if you have like a bear arm, it wouldn't be like a huge actual bear arm. It'd be like a bear-like arm, but only as much as your arm flesh.
It'd look really freaky, yeah.
The cool mutations, like the lucky people get a new set of ears that can hear better, or a new set of eyes that can see better, and the unlucky people get like you start to grow a carapace over your body because you got like beetle, like or to avoid bugs, like your bones become hollow like a bird's, but your body doesn't compensate in any way for that new shape. So you're just basically like a cripple if anything bad happens to you at all.
Well, you get like brittle bone disease. You just like snap trying to lift things.
What's the technology level? Because people could maybe deal with this disfigurement using technology, but not if it's super like low.
Well, tech. I like Magitek if you've established.
Oh hell yeah, Magitek Knights.
Did I hear gun lances?
Did I hear gun lances and walkers?
I do think it would be a good defense against, like, you want some sort of like robotic like shell to protect you from like to be able to go into like radiation areas and to still be able to operate. Like, I think that's cool.
I agree. There'd be huge zones that would still be dangerous. They're bombarded with magical energy.
No, that's cool though, because you could like basically you're talking about like robotic, like, or not robotic, but like Magitek hazmat suits, and you could have like teams of guys that do mount up on.
Hear me out, big walkers.
Yeah, I'm on Team Walker here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to go into the zone and get magic artifacts and shit.
And there could be like a dome city. I like dome cities.
We all do.
Is the Dome City like ruined because a bomb went off inside it and mutated everybody, or is it like a refuge?
Well, it's post-bomb. It would just be harder to allocate enough resources to sustain a city, and that's why a lot of like cities wouldn't exist. Is people would leave. You'd be starving in there.
Right. Well, maybe it's a refuge that has some like hydroponic farming. It can sustain people. But yeah, that maybe there are like still attacks happening within the city. People trying to set off more of the transmogrification gas.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea actually for Yawn.
Okay.
So just word association. The only thing that isn't associated with sleep in Yawn is like a yawning void. That use of the word. So what if there's some void presence that rewards you for being militant, for killing people? You like kind of enter this void state, but you also like lose your humanity, and that's the aggressive force, sort of in the void state.
How does that tie to the animals at all?
Yeah.
So they use the Magitek. They're the ones who deployed the bombs. They're the ones who are still trying to release the transmog gas.
So the void faction.
Right, it could be like a wizard tapped into it first, and now it's out of control. Could be something that isn't the wizard did it.
When you say like a void state, do you mean like a state that overcomes a human, like, or a person, or do you mean like a literal like void in the sense of like another like plane or dimension?
Could be both.
Okay, it could be like another plane that's a source of negative energy or something.
I guess, but like negative energy and building machines don't really go together. Like Magitek is about like creation, you know.
If you're
I see where
that energy.
I see where this can go. So this yawning void, right? Like there's a few ways to think about like what is a void, what is like a nothingness, I guess. The closest thing that we actually have to like a complete void of nothingness is like at the end of the universe when there's no order at all, like chaos. So maybe this void is a yawning sort of like chaotic entity that is
like a premonition of the end of things.
Yeah. And people are sort of pulling energy from that like time. They're like pulling chaos energy.
Okay.
If you could pull magical energy from a future apocalypse, like what if there was a magical apocalypse in the future, or a magical heat death of the world that was so powerful that it can radiate magic back through time and you can harness some of it.
That's
this
cool.
collapse. Yeah. And that's what's fueling, ironically, this Magitek war that's going to lead to the end of all things, is people are harnessing energy of the emptiness to come and the reverberation of that through the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's badass.
So you can sort of skim the power of the end times out and use it for your own devices. There would be definitely repercussions to doing that, though. Like, if you're stealing mana from the future and it was used in, like, a weapon that killed a whole bunch of people, it's gonna infect that shit.
Well, it was used to create something called, like, the Apocalypse Reactor, which, you know, it's it's a bad name. They should have known, but it's powered by the future apocalypse. And using apocalypse energy from the Apocalypse Reactor, humanity was originally able to do all sorts of helpful things. But that Magitek that's powered by something that's inherently destructive wreaks havoc on the human soul and spirit.
Yeah.
And made us, as Belvin said, more warlike.
I'm just still so stuck on this idea of like the Mr. Like, hey, Mr. Wizard, what you working on there? It looks pretty big. It's like, oh, well, this is the Apocalypse Reactor. It's like, that doesn't...
Boy, it should be called APOC. You use APOC energy.
Ooh, I
mean,
that.
If they were building it to be like a reactor that would be useful, shouldn't it have like an optimistic name that's now like ironic?
Well, what if it's not like what if it's not something called the Apocalypse Reactor, but what if it's called I've always liked the phrase Eschaton, which means the end of the world or the final event and the divine plan. What if it was called like the Eschaton or something like that?
Yeah, I like the Eschaton, and maybe the energy is still called APOC.
Yeah.
Well, because if you think about what they might think that this is doing, right? You might think stealing chaos from the end of time and bringing it back to now would sort of like delay the end of time, right?
Yeah.
But it actually accelerates it.
But it is instead bringing the end of time to right now.
Right.
Like it is literally what you're doing. Yeah. It's a really cool philosophical and kind of, I don't know. I just like it. So let's talk about, like they discovered the Eschaton when we discovered kind of how to use magic, and we discovered this energy that was floating around everywhere from the future.
I really like that it's the Eschaton. Like the Eschaton is the name of the particle that they're bringing back, maybe. Because it sounds like a particle. I don't know.
Eschaton's a cool ass word, but APOC is the energy, maybe.
Right.
Also a great rapper.
The idea that anybody could plan to make something like this and think that it would be a good idea at all is a little baffling.
Well, it's like literally unlimited energy that can never run out. It's renewable. It has infinite.
It's eco.
It's mana suffused with dead people. with the souls of millions of dead people.
It is crazy, right? Because before we did the nuclear tests at wherever we did those nuclear tests.
Bikini Atoll.
Yeah, Bikini.
Nice pull.
They'd done the math, right? And they were reasonably certain that blowing up a nuclear, splitting the atom would not cause the end of the world. They were reasonably certain
that it wouldn't light the atmosphere on fire and kill every single living thing.
Right. So it's good that it didn't. It's very good.
Debatable.
Yeah, I find it totally realistic that we would repeat that mistake, just bigger.
Yeah.
So we have Magitek. We have a giant battery, the Eschaton reactor. We have this weapon that was created sometime later as humanity devolves into a war with both sides deploying more and more destructive and hateful technologies. Ironically, though, in this post-apoc, like this kind of world we're living in right now, where the bombs have been gone off, the Eschaton is still sometime after that. Something still has to happen in order to trigger that infinite source of energy that happens in the future, right? Like people are living in kind of a dark age, but it's not the apocalypse, you know?
Right.
The road to the apocalypse is still, we don't know how long it is away.
The creator of the Eschaton reactor, first of all, I think the bombs are like Eschaton bombs.
Yes, thank you.
Like they are, when they drop, they release these Eschatons around, and they are the things that turn you into, that shapeshift you. The Eschaton reactor itself is something different. Like the creator of that, he wanted to make this reactor to stave off the end of the world, right? And the first one he built didn't really work all that well, and then they built the bombs. And now, the bombs are easier to build than reactors.
I mean, we built bombs before we built reactors.
Yeah, maybe they thought, too, if they could leech off some of that energy from the end of the world, that the end of the world might... They originally hypothesized, the end of the world was caused by all this fucking endless energy, so let's siphon some of that off and use it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe we can avert our fate. But it turned out that the end of the world... The energy is a result of that.
That's cool. I have an idea to alleviate the bleakness of the setting a little bit.
It is a go on, please.
Which is another one of the dark ones. But one idea that I kind of like is, what if some people who are hit by APOC bombs, who get like the transmogrification scars, end up being endowed with some sort of visions of the apocalyptic future, like the end time, but also its corollary, like the future where that doesn't happen, like equal and opposite reaction, yin yang. Like there is the pure chaotic energy of the end.
Yes, an Eschaton energy is pure chaos. Anything could result theoretically.
And there's like a corollary creative future, where it's like expansive and infinite universes, et cetera, et cetera. And so they kind of have this vision of that, and they get flashes of it. So they're sort of agents for that, and they're trying their best in this war-torn Magitek apocalyptic setting to.
I do like also the energy giving people kind of these transcendent spiritual visions as well. I think that's cool because it's not just like physics. It's clearly prophetic of the end time.
Yeah, it's all Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah.
Sorry, should I say that?
No.
I've never seen it, actually. I've only seen the ending, which was very good. And
it's everybody stop listening to the podcast right now and just go watch Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Go watch all 26 episodes, the original ending, and then the movie, and then come back and finish the episode.
The original last 2 episodes. Go watch those right now.
Go watch
Invite
that
your
and then watch
over.
the scene where he jacks off. Those are the only 2 scenes.
Invite your parents over. Invite your prayer group. Would just watch Evangelion.
It's the best Christian movie ever made in Japan.
Okay, wait, we're off track. So these like sort of spiritual-esque visions are imparted by direct APOC energy blasts.
Man, I'm not trying to be like a peasant going through my day-to-day life and get hit by an APOC bomb, and now I have feathers and I can see the future where all my family and friends have died a horrifying death.
Well, how are these people treated? Because are there any normal people left, or is it all Mad Max mutants?
Yeah, I think they're like city-states. I think there's like more put-together countries still, or there's a semblance of normal life, and then like the more war-torn countries.
Yeah, maybe like countries that remain neutral in whatever horrific conflict erupted.
I think there's a center, like a terminus of this Magitek that is still fortified and safe by virtue of having this technology and like being sort of the progenitors of it.
Yeah, I imagine like a real jackboots nation.
And deploying it against their less proficient enemies. Yeah, maybe it was a first strike situation.
Yeah. Well, if they're the manufacturers and they like determine who gets what, you're not going to strike them.
Once one person figures out how to manufacture something, the rest of the world would also figure out how to do it. Like,
I think the inherent chaotic energy of the material would mean that like
that only happens if their
precautions would break apart, people would get their hands on it. So.
It would, but I mean, what you're saying only makes sense if there's a free transmission of information. If this is like some like order of magical engineers, in essence, they're not going to like just let that information go out into the world.
Well, no, we didn't let knowledge of the atomic bomb get out into the world, and the Soviets developed it anyway. Like, stuff like that will happen, you know? Like,
it will, but that happened because of espionage.
Right, but I'm saying there would be stuff like that.
And because the fundamental science of it still exists.
Speak up.
I got it. This whole conflict, essentially, it hinges on this research team, this research and development team that was creating the APOC bombs, that was discovering the Eschaton and making bombs out of them, and possibly another team like on the other side, like in
the
World
underfunded
War II,
ethics department of the...
Right. If one nation is trying to develop a brand new technology, there are leaks that at least inspire other nations to like try to follow. But I think this doctor would want this wizard, Dr. Wizard. Can we call him Dr. Wizard?
Dr. Wizard.
Very well.
You're the lore lad.
Dr. Wizard. Regret that immediately. Would leak this information if it hadn't gotten out already, because he wants this to get out. He wants everyone.
Is Dr. Prometheus too on the nose?
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Wizard is also too on the nose.
Yeah.
But
Dr. Wizard is almost. We almost should change it. We should.
Dr. Oz, how about that?
Dr. Evangel.
No.
Well, hang on a minute. You said, not to riff too much, like Evangelos means like messenger, basically, right?
Hang on. Dr. Ibis. That means owl in Latin.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ibis was a separate bird. All right,
It's funny because ibis also means a large wading bird in English.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a bird?
Okay.
Just a bird.
You could say also Dr. Noctua, which is another word for owl in Latin. Actually, that sounds cooler.
No, I like
Sure.
Ibis.
Okay, Dr. Ibis.
Yeah.
Oh god.
So there's multiple doctors on the team.
Okay.
So there's
Oh god.
we already knew this.
They're
We
all
already
named
knew there was a
after
small
routes.
team. They're all named after
Team
birds.
Rocket ass.
Yeah, Dr. Wizard is a pejorative nickname that they gave one guy on the team.
Yeah, because it's a sort of simultaneously like lifting that person up like they're like a wizard, and it's simultaneously like putting them down like they treat science like this sort of magic evangelist.
Yeah, like a weird mystic
thing.
scientist.
You're calling them a quack, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so Chessman, where are you going with this?
That's where I'm there. What are you talking about?
so there's an R&D team that exists.
Peeling that aside, what's the rest of the world like? Right? You got big Magitek suits sauntering out to do war crimes. You got
Sick.
big city-sized guns that fire sometimes, occasionally, big canisters of magical gas.
That's the deployment method? Okay.
I mean, if we're talking about like different like factions in this landscape, there could be a group of like a city-state that they seized control of this like an Eschaton reactor for themselves, and they formed like a commune basically that they are using it to try and mutate people into more effective fighters.
Interesting. So they're transcendentalist entirely.
Yeah. And
That's cool.
it could be like
That
this
is
sort
cool.
of like the classless like society that almost it could rank itself based off the efficacy of your own mutations, basically.
Oh, is it possible that they are developing ways to control mutations? To like have a more controlled, like more predictable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're trying to fuse matter with people so they have more matter to work with.
It probably started out as a noble intention, like, hey, we can maybe like cure people who were affected by the Eschaton bomb. Then it became kind of like, well, let's see how far we can crank this in the other direction.
Yeah, like sort of a fucked up survival of the fittest.
I think it's a
Right.
populist project that got taken over by its own basically like momentum.
Well, like the evil energy of the apocalypse is also saturating the world, you know. So people are behaving like the end times energy is leaked into people's minds and shit too.
Right, but especially if you're trying to harness the APOC, it will backfire. Like, you can have the best of intentions. It will get dark.
Yeah, well, it's called APOC, so
Yeah, no one questions what that means. They think
It's
it's
like-
like BIPOC.
yeah,
Look,
in this setting, the word apocalypse doesn't exist. So
I
it's
think
all
they
right.
know about it, but it's not like they have like an electrical grid. Like they have nothing else.
It's a Kirkman zombie situation here.
Yeah, so I like thinking through like other manifestations of APOC. So we have the transmogrification gas and bombs. Like, what's another?
Huh.
What if there
What
are
about
fire
a weapon
people?
that turned drinkable water into glass?
That sounds
That's
difficult.
fucked up.
Yeah, I know.
Dude.
There's just huge lakes that are not drinkable because it's just solid glass.
An ocean of glass is a terrifying idea. Spooky.
It hasn't
Ooh,
yet
yeah.
hit the oceans. Or maybe it's hit portions of the ocean. There are big glass icebergs
That's
That's
that are
cool.
perfectly spherical. Yeah.
What were you saying before the glass thing,
what was that?
Belvin? What were you saying before the glass
I was
thing,
thinking about
Belvin?
APOC that spreads bacteria type life. Like maybe there's like incredible amounts of like hostile virus life.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What
Like
about
teeming spores?
Yeah, well, if it's this chaotic evil energy, it influences the development of those as well.
Yeah.
pure chaos energy stuff like heavy light, which is like sunlight that exerts pressure on the earth and can
Oh, like
collapse
this world.
building? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, fuck. It like light gains mass as it travels.
In certain areas of the
through.
world, they're more susceptible, to heavy light, where light actually, like, if you go outside, light weighs on you and bears
Yeah.
down on you.
Shit. So what you could actually, if you were to harness that, you could actually make hard light. You could use this to make, because if light has mass, then if you like step on it, then it'll support you.
Oh,
Ooh.
Magitek uses hard light. light swords.
Certain good lances and shit, that'd be badass.
Light lance.
So there are areas of this heavy light which was originally deployed to kind of like prevent armies from passing through. It'd be like really inconvenient. But then they realized if we actually increase pressure on heavy light areas, you can make hard light, which is useful for a lot of Magitek weaponry. So like areas of hard light are just like giant fucking pillars in the sky of light that whenever the sun passes through them, they fill up a little bit and continue to pressurize. And you mine basically those pillars.
I mean, you can make with that like basically instant fortifications. Like if you have a very intensified amount of like heavy light over a stretch of no man's land and you fire a bullet into it, it's going to fuck up the velocity of the bullet. It's going to drop like right into the fucking ground as it like, or it's going to keep arcing down.
Yeah, and that could make the mechs more viable for hand-to-hand mech goodness.
Yes.
Because you can't use bullets against them. You can't use like ballistics because of the heavy light.
Oh yeah, you have to fight if you're fighting in heavy light areas. You can't be walking around as human either, or with your like fleshy body, because as soon as you go out, you'll just like either get ripped to shreds or just get pressed into the ground.
Yeah, like it's designed to kill like normal like foot troops, which was how a lot of war was waged, and part of the reason why walkers are now a thing.
Right, we could say that basically everyone in this world has to use walkers in most areas, because most areas there's some flavor of apocalyptic, don't breathe in the air.
Yeah.
Except maybe the people who are transmogger scarred, just by virtue of like a lot of their body being chaos components, they can breathe or like move a little freer.
Maybe. I also think that like not all the world is heavy light bombed, you know? Like,
no, I think it's areas. I think it's more interesting.
Like war zones, basically.
Crazy. Different flavors of apocalyptic.
Yeah, there's different. There's some places that have heavy light. There's some places that are deserts because all the water has turned into glass there.
There's some places where the air is sentient and hates you.
It hates you.
Yeah, it fucking hates you and will.
If the ambient like energy in the air, right, like the electricity, it could like fuck with the weather. Could make these giant fucking thunderstorms of apoc energy. And instead of doing like a sheet of like water coming down and rain, it's like whole like spatterings of lightning and thunder that can like break glass and shit.
Oh, lightning rain? Yeah, it's like acid rain, but lightning.
Yes.
That's cool.
Oh, there's just like constant like drizzling lightning bolts coming out of the sky.
Do not get out of the walker. do not send the walker into this area.
Adapt the energy so you can like be bigger and more crazy.
Yeah.
Oh
shit. Use that constant energy source.
The only settlement that can exist in that area, they have these massive lightning rods all up above the city, like just enormous, that draw all the electricity out away from it.
Maybe that area would need to have walking cities, and they could always be moving because there's always getting energy.
Well, I'm imagining something like what are the trains? They're not trains. They have them in like San Francisco going up and down the
trolleys.
Yeah. You have like a trolley like that where there's an arm that comes up that touch the rail and get power from the rail. You have that, except instead of a thing going up to touch the rail, they just have looks maybe like a dish or like a satellite looking thing.
Oh, dude, what if there were a city built vertically along a column of heavy light?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. It's the tower.
It's fucking sick.
If you were actually going to put if you wanted to make sure no one interfered with your research, you would probably build a tower of heavy light, and you would have your research facility be inside the column.
The Eschaton aggressors, they have a lot of their infrastructure, their military infrastructure set up around the heavy light.
Yeah, the people who were first to weaponize the Eschaton, like they fucking were like, look at all the shit we could do with magic, and then everyone was like, should you do that?
We'll make the world a safer place.
Yeah.
It's like, Jeffrey just turned into like half frog guy, half like he's got wings for feet.
Yeah.
It's really sucks for him.
Yeah, but Dr. Wizard found out how to make a hunk of metal walk. It's pretty fucking cool.
I forgot
Pretty
that we've
cool.
seen
It's a
it.
pretty cool invention. He put a gun on it.
Call me Dr. Owl.
Before we run out of time, I want to just go back to the transmog hit people who are having these mystical visions of a potentially good future.
Yeah.
I'd imagine it's a little bit like The Stand. They kind of like follow their premonitions, like end up coalescing along the way.
There's like a safe like community that they form, basically.
Like they actually like find some, but the forces of chaos are also coalescing.
Yeah. In fucking Book of the New Sun, there's like the Green Man and the Gray Man who both come from an alternate future. One, they're time travelers from two futures, one where the sun dies and one where like the sun rebirths to the extent that's so powerful that like humans like become photosynthetic and like live in a golden age.
Ooh,
and they represent like a duality for humanity, like a branching path.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for, exactly.
Oh, did we accidentally make a new sun?
No, this is pretty far removed from Book of the New Sun.
It's called the Book of the Stand, a streetcar named Electricity. It's got Marlon Brando in it. It's pretty good.
Oh shit!
Wow.
Well,
do we have more? I kind of feel like we made it.
I could go on for a while too. This is a good one.
Yeah,
we just need. I feel like there just needs to be one more thing to round it out.
Don't say anything. No, we're gonna cut right here.
There's this band of high school girls and they play instruments. It's pretty cool.
See, that's a good idea, so it can't be that.
You have 3 seconds.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't want to ruin this world.
There's this character in the setting. His name is Dr. Lunkel, and he gets apocalypse cancer, and he dies.
That's our show. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice to get new episodes every Saturday. Go ahead and write us a 5-star review on iTunes and share us with anyone who likes world building. It really helps us out. Our art is courtesy of the talented and wonderful Shell Tor at Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet at us too at LoreLads or send us spirited hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world building.